Well, with DK Metcalf reinstated from his 2-game suspension just in time for the playoffs, Pittsburgh head coach Mike Tomlin spoke to the media ahead of the wild card round.
Certainly awesome to have DK back, but we're not going to exhale and think that DK automatically, with his presence, is going to be a difference or the difference. Football is the ultimate team game. It's going to require great effort from all parties involved, but certainly excited about doing it with him.
In the AFC, the Bills a slight favorite in Jacksonville. Buffalo has won at least one playoff game each of the past 5 years. They're 0-2 in their last 2 trips to Jacksonville, however, including a playoff loss in 2018. The Patriots favored by 3.5 at home to the Chargers Sunday. New England is second choice to win the AFC Championship at FanDuel. Only the Broncos have better odds, and the Steelers a home dog against the Texans on Monday night. As for the NFC, the Rams visit the Panthers as a double-digit favorite to kick off the NFL playoffs right here on TSN. LA, 5th seed in the NFC. Packers a slight favorite against the Bears Saturday night. The defending champion Eagles host the Niners. At least one of these teams has played in the NFC Championship game in each of the past 4 years. That leads us to another edition of Todd's Odds, brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Todd, great to see you, our sports betting analyst. The Steelers, home dogs to the Texans. But we saw what Aaron Rodgers did against the Ravens last week, and he was terrific, Todd. We know DK Metcalf is coming back because Mike Tomlin just told us so. So even though the Steelers are 17-1 to advance to the Super Bowl out of the AFC, you got to place one last bet on them, right? One last magical run from Rodgers from Todd Fuhrman, no?
Jay, I might need a 0 tacked onto that 17 to get me to the window to have a ticket on the Pittsburgh Steelers in my portfolio. But credit to the folks at TSN for identifying the longest play from scrimmage, or so it felt like, that the Steelers were able to have all season with DK Metcalf in the Europe game against the Minnesota Vikings. And if you're the Houston Texans trying to scheme up a way to slow him down, apparently all you have to do is just call him by his birth name, because that's going to get him to throw punches out of character and potentially look to get ejected from a game of this magnitude. But you dig into these two teams, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have to lean into Aaron Rodgers in that short, controlled passing game, getting the ball to Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell in space, because that Texans pass rush is about as ferocious as you're going to find in the National Football League. You look at this team offensively trending in the right direction. Jay, my number on the game, right in line with the betting market. I'm not surprised at all the Steelers have taken money, at least in this game, from 3.5 down to 3, but I want no part of betting the Pittsburgh Steelers to come out of the AFC until I see Mike Tomlin get that 800-pound gorilla off his back and finally win a playoff game, something that has evaded this franchise for years now.
Okay, 5 more games on Wild Card Weekend. Todd, I want you to make your case for your favorite underdog, and I want you to tell me why it's the 10.5-point home dog Carolina Panthers.
Well, Jay, I'm not going to tell you it's the 10.5-point home underdog Carolina Panthers. I indeed like the other side. I think the Rams win this game and do so by margin. It's rare to have a team laying this kind of number in the NFL playoffs on the road. And if Carolina closes 10.5 or more, it'll be the largest home underdog price tag we've seen, going all the way back to 1970. And keep in mind, the Los Angeles Rams have a little bit of revenge for a game they lost in Charlotte earlier this season. Where I think we could see an upset unfold, though, is in Sunday Night Football. I like the Chargers to go into Foxborough and win that game outright. So much has been made about the New England Patriots and what they've accomplished this year under MVP candidate Drake May and potential Coach of the Year in Mike Vrabel. But you dig into the resume that they've compiled, there's a lot of meat on the bone that's just not there for a team that really feasted on some of the lightweights in the league. They haven't seen a lot of elite quarterback play like they're going to encounter from a healthy and rested Justin Herbert come Sunday night. I think the Chargers offensively are going to be able to attack at all 3 levels. I think their defense can throw some looks to confuse Drake May. And I like the Chargers plus the points with the potential to win outright and advance to the divisional round.
Wow, very bold. Well, as our mutual friend Luke Wilson pointed out on this show Sunday, Todd, the Jaguars have one of the best run defenses in the National Football League. That's a problem for the Buffalo Bills, who are one of 4 road favorites this weekend. The people of Southern Ontario and Western New York, Todd Fuhrman, are begging you to pick the Bills to win this weekend. So will you make them happy?
This, for me, Jay, is the most fascinating game of the entire weekend, of the 6. given the chess match that we're going to see unfold, because this is a Bills defense that's left a lot to be desired over the last half of the schedule. They've struggled against the run. They haven't exactly been elite against the pass. And here comes this white-hot Jaguars team, winner of 8 straight games, and they've covered all 8 in the process. You're seeing Trevor Lawrence playing the best football of his NFL career under the tutelage of Liam Cohn. But on the flip side, for this stout Jaguars run defense that deserves all the praise, this is a pass defense that I think is going to get tested in a way against the Bills that they haven't over the last month. And I know a lot of people will point to the Jaguars' upset of the Denver Broncos when they completely stymied Bo Nix and company, but this is a Bills team that's battle-tested. I know the Bills haven't won a road playoff game since they beat the Dolphins in the AFC Championship back in the early 90s before Dan Marino appeared in Ace Ventura, but history is potentially made to be broken. I would lean the Buffalo Bills, but if they're going to be successful, I think they have to look to throw to set up the run, and I would look for the tandem of tight ends in Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid to have a big game against this Jaguars defense.
When you think about Dan Marino and Ace Ventura, he was a pretty good actor, Todd.
Look, I mean, there's a better chance that Dan Marino is going to end up with an Emmy before you, Jay, so I can understand why you put him up on a pedestal for his acting chops.
It's true. He's wonderful. Dan Marino, Miami Dolphins legend. The Seahawks are the favorite to win the Super Bowl, according to our friends at FanDuel. I think I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask Todd anyway. Todd, would you like to make a Super Bowl pick?
No, Jay, I would not like to make a Super Bowl pick. I know we have been away from each other for the last couple of weeks, but I'm still not going to give you a Super Bowl pick. However, I won't call it a promise or a guarantee, but this time next week, I will be willing to go out on a limb and pick a team that I think can win the Lombardi Trophy. Let's let a little bit more of the dust settle wild card weekend. We'll get a clearer picture of exactly the teams vying for that trophy in the divisional weekend. And knowing all of that information, hopefully we can identify a little bit of value in the futures market with our friends at FanDuel.
Okay, so that's next week on Todd's Odds on this show. That's called a tease. That's why Todd Fuhrman is one of the finest broadcasters in the industry, effectively using that tease. Todd, well done, my friend.